you used to explain yourself. Every decision, every silence, every closed door, you used to hand them the reasons like receipts, like proof you weren't dangerous, not anymore. Something changed in you, quietly. Nobody saw it happen. There was no announcement, no speech, no dramatic exit. One day you just stopped talking, and that silence did something to the people around you that 1,000 arguments never could. It scared them, because explaining yourself is a language weak men understand. It's a currency. You hand it over, and in return, they let you keep existing in their world on their terms. The moment you stop paying, they don't know what to do with you. You watch them scramble. You watch them fill in the blanks with their own fear. Why isn't he defending himself? Why isn't she arguing back? What does he know that we don't? That confusion. That's the first crack in their control. Let's go back. Let's go back to before the silence. Before the shift, you were the one explaining, always explaining. Late to a meeting, explain it. Skipped a call, explain it. Didn't laugh at the joke, explain it. You were performing innocence for people who never once returned the favor. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that if you just explained hard enough, clearly enough, sincerely enough, they'd finally understand you. They never did. Because understanding was never the goal, control was. Every time you explained yourself, you handed them a leash. A soft one, disguised as communication, disguised as just being honest. But a leash all the same. And the second you stopped pulling against it, the second you went quiet, they felt the leash go slack in their hands. That's when the real war started. Not the loud one, the silent one. You stopped answering texts within the hour. Stopped justifying why you left the group chat. Stopped defending your choices at family dinners. Stopped softening your ambition so it wouldn't make anyone uncomfortable. And people who claimed to love you started acting like you'd betrayed them. That's the tell. That's always the tell. The people who get angry at your silence were never listening to your words anyway. They were listening for weakness. And when the weakness disappeared, they panicked. You felt it in the room. The shift in energy. The way conversations got quieter when you walked in. The way certain people stopped making eye contact. That's not you losing them. That's you outgrowing the version of yourself they were comfortable controlling. Let it sit there for a second. Every relationship where you had to constantly explain, justify, defend, apologize for simply being who you are was never a relationship, it was a negotiation. And you were always losing. So you stopped negotiating. You started operating. This is the part nobody tells you about discipline. Discipline isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with speeches and gym selfies and countdown clocks. Real discipline is quiet. It's the version of you that wakes up at 5 a.m. with nobody watching. It's the version of you that says no to the party, no to the group chat, no to the noise, and doesn't feel the need to post about it. Discipline doesn't need an audience. Weakness does. Weakness needs validation. It needs someone to say, "Good job." It needs applause to keep going. But discipline runs on something colder, something that doesn't need permission. You started building in the dark. Nobody saw the 4 a.m. wake-ups. Nobody saw the meals you skipped social plans for. Nobody saw the books stacked beside your bed while everyone else was scrolling through highlight reels of lives they were secretly ashamed of. You built in silence because silence doesn't leak your plans to people who want to see you fail. And people, they want to see you fail more than they want to see themselves succeed. That's the ugly truth nobody says out loud. Misery doesn't want company. Misery wants witnesses. It wants front row seats to your collapse so it can feel validated in its own stagnation. So you gave them nothing to watch. You disappeared. Not physically. Psychologically, you were still there. Same face. Same voice. But something behind your eyes had gone somewhere they couldn't follow. Somewhere they weren't invited. And that terrified them more than any argument ever could. Because arguments give people something to fight. Silence gives them nothing but their own reflection. Let's talk about pain for a second. Real pain. Not the manufactured kind people perform on social media for sympathy. The kind that lives quiet, in your chest, at 3 in the morning when nobody's checking on you. That pain. The pain you've been carrying without a single soul knowing the weight of it. That pain is not your enemy. It's your architect. Every person who ever built something that lasted was first broken by something that should have ended them. You know this. You've felt it. The betrayal that gutted you. The rejection that made you question your own worth. The failure that had you staring at a ceiling wondering if you were ever going to be anything. That pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to strip away the version of you that was too soft to survive what's coming. And here's the part that separates the ones who make it from the ones who don't. The ones who make it don't try to numb the pain. They don't drown it in distraction, in noise, in cheap dopamine loops designed to keep you weak and compliant. They sit in it. They let it burn. And on the other side of that fire, something colder, sharper, more dangerous walks out. That's who you're becoming. Let's talk about betrayal, because betrayal is the tuition fee for growth. Nobody graduates into their next level without paying it. The friend who disappeared the moment you needed them. The partner who left when your ambition made them feel small. The family member who called your discipline obsession, because your growth exposed their comfort. They didn't betray you by accident. They betrayed you because your evolution was a mirror. And mirrors are unbearable to people who refuse to look at themselves. You wanted loyalty. What you got was a lesson. And the lesson was this: the people who can't handle your silence were never meant to witness your rise. So let them go. Let them go without a speech, without a final argument, without one more explanation you don't owe them. Because here's the secret about silence that nobody tells you until it's too late. Silence isn't the absence of a response. Silence is the response. It says, I don't need your approval anymore. It says, I've stopped performing for an audience that was never rooting for me. It says, whatever you think of me now is none of my business. That's power. Real power. Not the kind you flex. The kind you carry. You've felt people testing that power. Trying to provoke a reaction. Trying to bait you back into old patterns. The explaining, the justifying, the apologizing for taking up space. And every time you didn't take the bait, you watched something break in them. Because control only works if the other person keeps reaching for it. You stopped reaching. Let's talk about isolation. Because isolation gets a bad reputation from people who've never actually built anything worth protecting. Isolation isn't loneliness. Loneliness is being surrounded by people and still feeling invisible. Isolation is choosing the silence on purpose, because the noise was costing you your future. Every empire, every transformation, every version of a person that became undeniable was built in a room nobody else was allowed into. You didn't isolate because you hate people. You isolated because you finally understood that most people are not building anything. They're maintaining comfort, maintaining mediocrity, maintaining the illusion that everything is fine while quietly resenting anyone who refuses to accept the same fate. You refused. And refusal, when it's silent, is the most threatening thing a person can do, because they can fight your words. They can debate your choices, but they cannot fight your absence. They cannot argue with a closed door. They cannot manipulate a person who has stopped needing anything from them. That's when the fear sets in. Not because you got louder, because you got further away, and they realized they can't follow. Let's talk about respect, because respect and approval are not the same thing, and most people spend their entire lives confusing the two. Approval is given by people who feel comfortable around you. Respect is earned by people who feel threatened by you. You will never get both from the same room. So which one are you chasing? Because if you're still explaining yourself, still shrinking your ambition into digestible pieces so people don't feel intimidated, you're chasing approval. And approval will keep you small forever. It will keep you likable and invisible. But the second you stop explaining, the second your actions start speaking a language your mouth used to translate for free, something changes. People stop asking you to explain. They start watching to see what you'll do next. That's respect. And it doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence. Uncomfortable, tense, unshakable silence. The kind that fills a room the moment you walk into it without saying a word. You didn't get here by accident. You got here by refusing to keep performing for people who were never going to clap for you anyway. Let's talk about revenge, the quiet kind. Not the kind where you scream your success in someone's face. The kind where you simply become undeniable and let their own memory do the damage. They'll remember the day they doubted you. They'll remember the day they laughed. They'll remember every single dismissive comment, every eye roll, every "he'll never make it," every "she's just going through a phase." And they'll remember it in the exact moment your name starts meaning something they can't ignore. You don't have to say a word. Your existence will be the argument. Your results will be the rebuttal. Your silence will be the mic drop. That's the kind of revenge that doesn't require you to lower yourself to their level. It requires you to rise so far above it that revenge stops feeling like revenge and starts feeling like inevitability. Let's talk about the version of you that almost quit. You remember that night, the one where everything felt pointless, where the work wasn't paying off fast enough, where the isolation felt less like strategy and more like punishment, where you sat in the dark and asked yourself if any of this was even worth it. That version of you is still in there, waiting. Not to take over, but to remind you, every time it gets hard again, that you already survived the moment that should have broken you. You didn't quit then. You're not quitting now. Because quitting was never really an option. It just felt like one on the nights you were too exhausted to remember who you were becoming. Let's talk about the mask people think you're wearing. They think this coldness, this silence, this refusal to explain is armor. A defense mechanism. A wall built to keep people out. They're wrong. It's not armor. It's evolution. You didn't build a wall. You built a filter. And that filter isn't keeping the world out. It's keeping the wrong people from draining you dry before you get where you're going. The right people don't need your explanation. They read your energy. They respect your boundaries. They don't demand access to parts of you that you haven't chosen to give. And the ones who can't handle that were never meant to be in the room when the transformation completes. Let's talk about the moment everything shifts. Because it's coming. Maybe it's already started. It's the moment someone from your past sees who you've become and gets quiet. Really quiet. The kind of quiet that used to be reserved for you. It's the moment your name comes up in a room you're not in. And nobody has anything smart to say anymore. It's the moment the same people who questioned your discipline start quietly studying it, hoping some of it rubs off on them. You won't gloat. You won't explain. You'll just keep moving. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself was never about punishing anyone. It was about finally understanding this. Your life was never a debate to be won. It was a becoming to be protected. And you protect becoming with silence. You protect it with distance. You protect it with the discipline to keep building long after the applause stopped mattering. Long after the doubt stopped hurting. Long after the people who left became a distant, irrelevant memory in a story that's still being written. So here's where you stand right now. No more explanations. No more performing your pain for people who never earned the right to witness it. No more shrinking the parts of you that make weak people uncomfortable. You already know what's coming. You can feel it in your chest before your mind catches up. That quiet, dangerous certainty that something in you has already crossed a line it's never going back from. Stay silent. Stay building. Let them wonder. Because the moment you stopped explaining yourself was the moment you won.